talking about showing. And so then, and then Jen can have a chance to probably these nurses explain to me.
Okay.
So that's why I remember when the 911 was so big, John selected emergency services and 911 as 911. So when she asked me about that yesterday, I showed her, like when he looked at Grand Traverse County, he doesn't even have a budget for 911, but we know they have one. So when John went to that dashboard, he selected which departments he was putting together in culmination of how that was to reflect on the dashboard. So like when you looked at her, when you look at his sheets, it says 720,000 is spent on the clerk, and it's only 701. So it means he selected something else, which happened 911.
Well, the numbers didn't look good, did they?
I know. Do we have two that are absent then today?
I'm guessing they'll be here. I saw them drive out together, so I'm guessing they went to get lunch together.
Oh, okay. Do you want to wait another 5 minutes or are you getting started?
No, I'm good to get started.
Okay. Go for it then. I'm ready. I'm already live streaming.
Oh, we're on live stream, all right. All right, well, I'm gonna call this meeting to order. We did the pledge and bonus silence already, so I'll go with that and go ahead and roll call.
Commissioner Robbins is absent, Commissioner Walter is absent, Commissioner Bunnick,
Present.
Commissioner Wessel,
Here.
Commissioner Campbell,
Here and present.
Commissioner Alguier, here, Chairman Yoder.
Here. Thank you. All right, so next up we have approval of the agenda. Do we have any late additions or deletions? Not, I'll take a motion.
Move to accept the agenda as presented.
Moved and supported, discussion. Not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Carried 5-0. Public comment, 3 minutes, yes, Mary.
I won't take long. It was a pleasure to get the tail end of your first meeting today and hear all of you comment. Mary Tonneberger, Omina. I wrote to you a memo in early September relative to the early childhood millage. And I made 2 suggestions, and I think you may be finalizing that soon, but one is to potentially offer a tuition stipend to any family that has a child enrolled in a licensed early childhood program, or as an alternative, or maybe both, some financial support to the licensed providers who are constantly under stress, if you will, to provide their services. My comments were under the assumption that the millage that may be allocated would not fully use up the millage that has been authorized. So I'm not here to say cut back on any current services. I'm saying expand the services and utilize the millage that has been authorized by the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Very short, Mary.
3 bullets.
Gold star for you.
All right, any other public comment? All right, if not, we will move on to commissioner comments. Nothing? All right, move on to action item number 1. We got Ben's Leelanau District Health Department Early Childhood Program. We got Michelle here.
Come up to you. I want to introduce you all to Hannah. So Autumn Burek, who'd been our longtime supervisor for parenting communities, finished working with us on Friday. So Hannah is the new parenting community supervisor. So she's leading that team of folks, and you'll see more of her. And then when I retire in a year, you'll probably see a lot of her.
In a year.
That's about 15 months.
Yeah, let's be accurate.
I don't have the countdown yet on my phone, but
She's getting ready.
so, okay. I don't know what you want to start with. I mean, you guys have the information. Do you want me to review it with you? Do you want to start with?
You do a synopsis.
I could do a synopsis, yeah. So we met with a few of us, Marion Komkowski, Sue Miller, you know, we got together to sort of do some brainstorming on how this might work. And of course, when you start talking about the logistics, one thing leads to another. And we want to make sure that when we implement this, we're doing it correctly. We've thought of all of the problems that might arise and looking at sustainability as well. So what we did is we came up with, we called it child share, just because that seemed to flow nicely. Hi. All right, so what we're looking at is a program that would offer supports for families for childcare costs, must be Leelanau County residents. They must be in Leelanau County licensed childcare providers, either centers or home-based providers or micro centers. We want to make sure that we're able to provide enough that's, you know, meaningful to a family was the thought process. So rather than a whole bunch of people getting a few $100, then maybe we have eligibility criteria and people can apply, and we can offer some more significant support that will allow, you know, families to continue working and pay for daycare, and possibly families to start working that hadn't been able to because of daycare costs. So we kind of laid it out on the child share pilot proposal is on here and what we're thinking and how it might work. So providers would enroll, families would enroll, we would verify residency and income eligibility. Everybody would be signing contracts monthly, roughly. I think probably the providers would report to us that these certain kids were there that are enrolled in this program, and then we would be reimbursing the provider for the agreed upon amount. So that's in a nutshell what we're thinking. I didn't have a dollar amount to work with. But I did go back and revise the budget that we had submitted for the Parenting Communities program and was able to shave some dollars off, just thinking about some of these changes coming up. And so that's on here too. And I don't think that's going to impact our ability to carry out the services we're doing right now. So what questions do you have?
So you're allocating 200,000 towards this project?
Well, I don't have that I mean, I don't know what the dollars are. I mean, nobody gave me a dollar amount necessarily, so we weren't sure what to do with that. So, and I don't know for certain how much money the millage is going to bring in or where we lie with that. I think one thing to consider is so there's money in the bank right now, and so we could do a lot more the first year of the program, but do we want to do that and not have it sustainable for all those families? Or do we want to take, you know, a little bit of money that we can spread out and make last? So we were playing around with about $200,000. But I don't know what the tax dollars are going to bring in exactly, or what's in the
Where
bank.
that number came from. We looked at, again, you have to project into the future, but it's, we should do so with a little bit of data and some degree of, you know, assumptions and intelligence. With a roughly $600,000 current fund balance, assuming, you know, the projection of the end of this year will have $600,000 fund balance approximately.
That has to cover expenses through.
Not really. But with that, because it fluctuates, the total amount fluctuates, and that amount would be at the end of the year, at the end of 2025.
But it
You have
has to,
another budget that gets enacted in 2026. And at the end of that budget, the projection would also be about $600,000 fund balance. So we were thinking that the amount of the fund balance and the projected increases, if we had $200,000 dedicated to this program, in all likelihood, it would be sustainable through the end of the next time the millage would be voted. So at the end of that, assuming that you had the program stop and wouldn't be funded anymore after the current millage, you'd end up with $0. And what you're referring to is really more just a matter of timing, when the money comes in, when the money goes out.
right,
So.
yeah, because the money left in December has to last until the next tax collection.
But then again, you budget, so you'll still have that fund balance potentially at the end of the next year as well.
Right.
So again, that's why it's a matter of timing.
Right.
It's a matter of timing as to And then the program is essentially sustained with cash from other sources, even if it didn't have the fund balance. So the $200,000 mark felt comfortable, particularly if we're looking at probably not starting until maybe the beginning of 2026 school year.
Yeah, we put in here August is
Yeah.
when, to do all the things we want to do to have all of the systems in place. August is our target date to start.
The
So-
idea was to allocate a certain amount of money in the budget for 2026. And again, you may need to adjust that up or down as you see performance actually occur. But you have to make a decision in January as to where your starting point is going to be for the allocation. We thought that, you could decide, we're going to take $600,000 and start giving out scholarships or child share payments. We didn't think that was sustainable. So the whole idea was to focus on a number, a dollar amount that would be sustainable through the end of the current addition.
And I reached out to Michelle last night and she got back to me, so she resolved most of my concerns. I was concerned about the reduction in Autumn's position and the elimination of the Fathers Program.
Mhm.
Especially concerned about the Fathers Program because fathers of young kids in today's world need a lot of help.
Yeah, they
But you
do.
told me that there was probably an alternative you're looking at.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we've been doing fraternity of fathers in conjunction with other partners as well. It's hard to get enough dads just in Leelanau County to participate. But even with our Mom Power program, we're just looking at some scaled back programs. And so I think we can make some things happen. And we do have dads that come to our families together. There's several dads that participate in that, so.
Second
Yeah.
concern was the fact that, and you've addressed it maybe, but a year away to implement seems like a long time. Because we have a lot of people that need help now, and especially a long time when health costs and everything going up but if that's the best we can do, but I was hoping we could do something mid-year.
I mean, it's certainly possible that we could. It just made some sense to start it around the beginning of the next school year, because that's when the need clearly is the most acute. But if we can get all those things that are proposed to be accomplished in the pilot proposal, which basically is to agree on those eligibility requirements are and how they'll be administered is important. Getting that right rather than, unless you're going to give everybody that asks the child share program stipend or payment, I don't think that that's the right way to go either.
I did like that it was licensed care facilities only. We have a micro center in Northport, but I'm not sure it's going to be able to last because it's based on enrollment and I'm not sure parents can afford it. But, so if we can do it earlier, I'd love to see if we can.
If we get it done earlier, that's fine. As I said, we want to make sure we're doing it correctly. We don't want to jump in and then say, oh, that was a big mistake.
And the third thing I noticed is Will came to us several months ago with the idea of the Smiles program. And I thought that was a good idea to help the dental cost for young families, especially in those in need. And I was disappointed that wasn't included.
That wasn't.
That comes straight from here.
Yeah, that came from you guys. That's up to you guys. That wasn't part
Come out of
of
that batch of money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they won't administer it. The health department wouldn't administer it, so it wouldn't be included.
So this does not eliminate that.
Yeah, that is correct. It does not.
Mr. Money?
Yeah, I just appreciate you going through the budget and working to see how you can implement the vouchers. I just really appreciate that. I'm kind of sorry to see the car seat, but I did hear that, that LCN is actually doing car seats and actually for free, so it
Yeah.
probably works out well that way.
Mhm.
So, so I just wanted to thank you for getting it down, and so that we'll have the money to work on the vouchers. And,
Yeah,
like Commissioner Wessel said, I would be nice if we could get it going, but I understand the school thing is, working to make sure you have it started before school starts.
yeah,
So-
that's the hard, but if we're ready to roll in June, there's no reason we can't. We
Great.
just want to make sure we have everything done that needs to be done.
Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mr. Campbell?
Yeah, I really did appreciate our conversation. I mean, I didn't know if I was stepping in the hornet's nest or what, I mean, just because it's been such, the village itself has been protected. And the goal was never really to take away from the programs that you had. And if you'd have had donuts, it'd have been perfect. But,
I don't think I had a warning. Did I know you were
No.
coming? So I would have gotten you noticed, but yeah.
when we first talked, we talked about, what I guess I really appreciate is your willingness to throw around numbers as someone in government, because we had no template, we had no model. And when we originally talked, you said, well, maybe $300,000. And then you start really putting the pencil to the paper and it's $200,000. And I understand completely why. You have certain programs, certain things in place, and you've made cuts and adjustments to accommodate that. I do like that. Any idea how much per kid?
Well, that we haven't gotten that far, because when we started to really think about it and think about, these are decisions we haven't made. Is it going to be a sliding scale based on income?
Right.
And so it wouldn't be the same for every child depending on their income. So those are one of the things we have to think about. And we also realize we don't really know the incomes of the people who are currently using childcare. So we weren't even sure, we couldn't say, 150% of poverty is X discount, because I really don't know how many kids are at what income levels. So that's part of what we want to try to gather, is some of that information, so we can come up with some mechanism to determine eligibility. And if we have some sort of a sliding scale, which makes sense, that maybe not every child gets the same discount based on family income.
Sure.
In
And
order to
some
make the money
families
up.
may slide up and be able to
That's exactly right.
afford.
Exactly.
So whatever numbers you have now, hopefully the impact is that you have more numbers.
And I think, our target's really those Alice households. Well, those are the ones we know struggle
Sure.
every day to make ends meet. So,
Sure.
yeah, so we'll define exactly what that looks like.
Just conceptually, not looking at numbers, is the idea that we would run somewhat of a deficit budget for a while to take down that fund balance? Or are we thinking that with this new program, we're still going to be about even with what that millage brings in at its current rate?
Well, I don't know exactly what the millage is gonna bring in. That's not a me thing, so that's your finance folks that have
I'm
that
fairly
exact
confident
number.
that what's being proposed here at the level of support that would be proposed, that it would not exhaust the millage in its entirety. Of course, there are potentially other things, including the SMILE program, that we would fund from that millage, but
Right.
we didn't want to propose something that I think would scare or as being imprudent to proceed.
I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, we
Appreciate it.
didn't want to present something that would look like it was an overreach or anything like that.
Sure.
We thought, and again, the whole idea is you've got, I think it's another 4 years of this millage, correct? The idea was $200,000 would be a reasonable amount that we think can be sustainable. But over the next budget year, the 2027 budget year, we might look and say, it could really be 250 or 260 or something like that, or maybe 300,000 because of what we see as the projections into the future. We were confident that a $200,000 amount this year, particularly, and again, we're not, even though we're not thinking of starting until September, could be sooner, but we're not thinking of starting to September. We're not going to, we think a budget amount of $200,000 would be reasonable, even though it'll only be maybe a third of the year that we would be funding.
You just, yeah.
Which is-
calculate that out.
And again, and again,
Yeah, that is a question, because I don't know that we would expend all of that
Right.
just in that last couple
And
months,
we
so that
would
would,
then more
be
than likely
available.
carry forward that balance into the next year and perhaps increase the program. It can be kind of a, let's wait and see how that works out, but starting out with $200,000 would be a reasonable number based upon what we think the dollar amounts will be over the course of the millage.
Excellent. And the only other thing that, and I think we had talked about and that I would like to put on our calendars is that because our budget year, our fiscal years don't line up,
Right.
is to become a part of your budget formation, as in we at least have a meeting together before you present the budget. And I just think that'll help communication between what you guys do and what we
Sure.
do.
We've
Yeah.
talked about that, how we might make that happen, but
Thank you.
yeah, we're usually doing those in July. And actually, it's not unusual for us to be submitting something to you in July-ish as well, so.
Thank you.
I would just like to say, thank you for doing this. Thank you for suggesting it. When I was a single mom going back for a master's so I could support my kids, I could not have done it had there not been programs for childcare in Ann Arbor.
Mhm.
And my children were well cared for, and I was able to go to school. And when I got out and got a good job, I paid for my own. But I had to get there and I needed that ladder. This is really important
Right, this is.
because
yeah.
now childcare is out of sight.
Yeah, it is,
So
along with
thank you.
everything else, right? So, yeah,
Thank you.
it's all about economic, sustainability for our families. Are there any other questions?
Look like
So next, you guys will just let me know if we're proceeding and that's, and the exact dollar amount, okay?
I think what we'll end up doing is work this into the final draft of the budget and point it out to you at the time of ratification, approval of the budget, and take from there.
That's great. I'm excited. I just think this is gonna be a really, really good benefit to the Leelanau families here, so. Yeah, so thank you for getting the ball rolling. Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks,
Michelle.
everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And nice to meet you.
Thank you, you too.
Hey, is it with 2 H's or just one?
2 H's.
All right, next up, we got the clerk's office. Oh, wow.
I don't have really a lot, but I do want to address, Commissioner Wessel was nice enough to email me about some questions he had. So there's just a couple budgets I wanted to touch on and a couple things. Under your, I didn't bring you copies. I haven't had a chance to make PowerPoints or anything like that. So I don't know if you've opened your books, if you're gonna open the books, if you guys are the ones that are gonna be making the decisions or how things are gonna work. But under special funds in your book, it's Fund 263. It's called Concealed Pistol Licensing. It's on page 20 in the book. That is one of the funds that my office has, and it is our revenue that is just from CPL renewals, concealed pistol licenses. It'd be the special funds tab, more towards the back on page 20. And the reason I started with that was just because of some of Ty's questions that he had. I don't have a lot in there. There's around $62,000 in that budget. And the biggest thing we plan to do with that, I do charge some office supplies to there, once a year, I'll do like a ream of paper because I have renewal letters. I also purchase CPL cards out of there, envelopes, postage, because I have to send things to all the applicants. And I've talked to the sheriff, and I'll come back to you probably in 2026. We really thought we'd be able to do it the last 2 years, but it hasn't worked out. And to buy a live scan for fingerprinting for CPLs, and they're in agreement with that. It would be one thing off of their plate, and it gives our customers a one-stop shopping, because when they apply for CPLs, they have to be, and then the revenue stays with the county for that. For every CPL that we process, that goes into the fund, it is it $36, Jen? My paperwork's out of order. Oh, I'm sorry, it's 26 for new CPLs and 36 for renewal that comes to the county on that. And you do take a portion to transfer out of here to your, I'm sorry, I can't, cost allocation. You take $2,100 out of here and give it back to the general fund to cost allocate. Should you be doing that? I'm not really sure, but it's not the hill I'm gonna die on for $2,100 out of there. We have some copy machine rentals. I do have a contingency in there. But this money is solely, it's like when I was talking to Attorney Nordford the other day, when I need something for this, he explained it and confirmed what I was saying. I would come to you and say, I want to get a live scan. And that particular one, like I said, I cleared it with the sheriff because they do also fingerprinting, but a lot of clerks are doing that too. I'll come to you with the purchase of that, and then basically you would just agree to it, because the money that comes out of here can only be used for CPL purchases, training, and education. That's all this money can be used for, and it stays right in here. It's not something that you can rob Peter to pay call on. But the reason I started with this is because Commissioners Wessel had some questions that I'll get to about the cost of doing business per citizen. That's kind of the shortened. So I ran the numbers from CPLs. And when we go to our conferences, they always say, who's the most expensive for the year for their number of CPLs? Well, for whatever reason, I've won the award twice. Back in 2018, I processed 338, or our staff did 338 CPLs. And the cost per CPL was $48.64. Well, part of the reason was I had to spend $8,400 defending myself in a lawsuit. You find that when you revoke or suspend someone's CPL, they don't always take it real well. And they usually sue you, and we have to defend ourselves. And we just have a very old formula for doing that. It doesn't mean that necessarily everyone that comes in, like last year, it was 5107 per CPL, processed 389. So far this year, I'm already beyond 454. So we could, that's probably all we'll hit for this year, because the period ended October 1st. Some people take an hour to process, some you can do in 15 minutes. It all just depends. And renewals can be online. So, it just depends. But we try to guesstimate of how many hours of my time it takes in each staff member's time to process these. The actual issuance of CPLs, I do at night or on weekends. I personally do those myself. And then we look at, like I said, our office supplies, education, and stuff like that. But it just shows how these numbers can change. 1 year, it can be $29.60 per CPL to process for us. 29 is a pretty average number for us, but some years it will spike. It depends on if I get sued or if I need new equipment, I needed a new printer. Ink cartridges are incredibly expensive for this machine. So that's what I'll be coming to you with in 26 is hopefully to get this live scan. So I may need a budget amendment if it goes over what I've requested. But again, those funds are in there and they're specifically for this purpose. Those are the biggest expenditures for equipment. It would be the machine to print the CPLs on and then the live scan. Can either of you think of any other costs that we would have that would be? Are there any questions on the CPL fund?
What's the live scan?
Live scan, your fingerprint clearance. So it goes into lien to make sure they can do the criminal background check.
Okay.
And that the statute is set by that as to how much you can charge on that. Before I go any further, I do know we have 2 new commissioners, and I wasn't doing this like I would normally do my in-public presentations or one of my training sessions. Did you need me to go over all the different functions and services we perform out of my office, or can I save that for a different day? It's really up to you.
No, I don't need it unless somebody else wants it.
How long?
I can wait, I can save it. I haven't presented to the board in quite a while, and I'm thinking, just looking at my schedule, that I'll talk with Lauren and get on your schedule to do a presentation either in March or April.
Oh, I
And
see.
outline, or you could stop by and I'm happy to go over everything if you would like.
But not part of the budgetary processes.
I can do that if you'd like. I mean, I'm gonna speak fast if that's what you'd like.
We didn't know if you wanted her to go over each budget that she's in charge of, you know, the ones
Or
that
tell
follow her
you-
statute, you know, because she has elections, she has circuit court, she has her clerks, there's multiple pages that she's reflective in your budget.
Well, let me just do it really quick. Okay, let me just give you a few ideas of what we do. And we have a different, the county clerk's office, of course, sits on the apportionment committee. And the apportionment committee is every 10 years, and that's the board that decides how many commissioners will serve Leelanau County. In my office, we do assume names, which is DBAs and co-partnerships. The clerk serves as the chief registrar for vital statistics, being births, deaths, marriage, divorces. Also serves as clerk to the circuit court, which is civil, criminal, adoptions, juvenile. We are the record keeper of all of those, and we handle all those filings that come through. I already talked about CPLs. We keep all contracts, ordinances, and resolutions. We serve as clerk to the Board of Commissioners. I'm also the chief election official for Leelanau County. We do a lot of genealogy. The jury board sits underneath my office. We do marriage licenses. I also perform marriages. We record military discharge records. Those are DD 214 for anyone coming out of the service. It's the only document that we do file in our office where a photocopy serves as the original. Of course, we do minutes for all of your meetings. We do notary filings. We have naturalization records, which is really cool for those that are doing genealogy. And that's part of what's the special project in my budget. And you heard a little bit about that from the Register of Deeds, is getting those archivable, because as time passes, those records start to fade. And we've got those records from the late 1800s, early 1900s. And in some cases, we have family photos on them. And so that's kind of a neat thing that you want to preserve if possible. We do peddler's license. That's for veterans to sell goods off the back of their vehicle. I don't know how many other clerks in the state actually issue them, but I issue one a year. And actually, every year that I've been here, 81, that's 1981, Steve. I've issued at least one. There's just a couple people that pedal off of the back of their vehicle. Of course, we do passport photos. We used to have the PA 116 farmland agreements. Those are now housed in the Register of Deeds. The county clerk also does property lien removal, which means that if there's construction liens against property, and if no litigation has been taken within 12 months since the filing, I can release those. If there's been less than 12, then there's bond postings and notifications to the parties. And if it meets all the criteria, I can issue documents to have those liens set aside. And then I already talked about being clerk to all the courts. I mean, not the district court, the circuit, the family division, and all the different types of cases we file within the circuit court. But I can go on about that later when I present.
The
That's
circuit
just,
court, we also are in charge of the checkbook and any restitution that's owed to victims, that's processed
That's
between
true.
us and Grand Traverse County.
yes.
And then when there's a sheriff's sale and there are proceeds from that sheriff's sale, as Rick knows, those proceeds are delivered to the office of the clerk, and then we are to follow up with information, finding and sorting out who those funds are eligible to go to if there are proceeds from the sale.
Yeah, so that's just a really quick, very quick snippet of what we do. So the elections budget is one that I just have to find out what pile I put in here. Chairman Wessel had asked me to explain the costs and comparing cost versus citizen for the clerk's office. And the first one he noted was for elections, and Jen was nice enough to give me this sheet because I haven't been coming to take minutes at your work sessions. And this, there is a disclaimer on the bottom of this form. This was put together by the treasurer, and he was nice enough and came over and showed me how he got this data. And I'm thinking that depending on who puts it together, we may come up with slightly different numbers, but this is all taken from that Michigan Municipal Dashboard, but it depends on how you pull that information down. And it's not 100% precise because each county reports their categories and puts its data together differently. So it showed here Leelanau cost for residents is $10.91, with most counties reporting cost significantly less per resident. And then Commissioner Wessel noted several of them.
Can
So-
you explain that to me? You meant it for your office in particular?
This, yeah, it was that Leelanau County line, and it showed when you have elections, it says
Oh.
cost citizens election is $10.91. But what you don't have here is you don't know in other counties, how many budgets are they managing and where are their staff and what are they doing? Okay, so when you're going to start comparing numbers like this, just like I told you with my CPLs, that's why I started there. There are different things that can tip the scales here. So on this report being pulled, it shows $10.91 would be the cost per each person based on 23,000 to go against what my budget expenditures were for 2024. It shows for elections in 2024 that the total expenditure based on our audit was $250,992.29. Okay, 250,000.
Did you want to follow in her book, in your book?
It doesn't.
I'm lost, yeah.
Okay, so you're gonna be under your public records. And it's the very first page, it's page 39 of 83.
Not to interrupt your conversation,
Nope.
does some of that have to do with Leelanau County handling early?
Yep.
voting
Yes.
as
That's exactly what it has to do
compared
with.
other counties?
Yes.
Right, so when you look at
Yes.
that,
No, yes. Yeah, good guess, yes.
yes, that's exactly correct. So when you look at my expenditures for the election budget for 2024 ending, it comes to a total of $250,992.29 if you find that page. Now, from that, and this is one of the issues I do want you as the board to consider. And that was that we talked about this with in 23 for the 24 budget. It was a person to help specifically with elections, which the board did give it to me. And I had the full understanding it would just be for the year of 2024. Needless to say, I couldn't find anyone. So when I look at these numbers of the 250,992, if you go down, first of all, what jumped out at me last night when I was looking at this is under hospitalization, because that position was approved. My budget for elections was charged $16,806 for health insurance, of which I didn't have a person. But the budget still, kudos to the health insurance fund. It got 16 more thousand from that general fund for a person that didn't exist. but it was just an automatic transfer based on budget in. Then what isn't reflected here is of the $250,000, $126,796.15 was reimbursed either from the state of Michigan or your local jurisdictions, because I did conduct early voting here, which takes that down to 124,000. And when you look at that per citizen, it's $5.39. So that pretty much cuts that almost in half. Then if you take out the health insurance that I shouldn't have had, you know, I should have been on top of that to notice that, but it's already budgeted through your cost allocation. If you subtract that, it takes it down to 466. So you need to know what these numbers are when comparing to the other counties and also where their staff is, because it does make a difference. Now, really, and any of the budgets that I oversee, we're not here as a rule to make you money. They're service oriented. So they're going to be heavily personnel costs, hospitalization, and all of that. But so that's the first one I wanted to talk to you about. And I hope you will consider, if I can even find someone for 2025, allowing us to try to fill that election position to help. We will have for sure May, August, and November elections next year. Leelanau County is not like other counties in the fact that we always have elections. There is not an election date that goes on the calendar that we do not have an election here. There's always someone. This November, I've got Casson Township and the city of Traverse City. I can't remember in the last 30 years not having an election for every cycle. There's only maybe 2 or 3 of us counties in the state that have that many. So that is the want from this. So for as far as elections, Commissioner Wessel, does that help explain that a little bit?
I didn't build that reimbursement in, and we did get that.
We did 129, and some of it came from the state. So when you do a presidential election, all of your costs, and they were pretty generous this year with that. We have a tradition here, and I don't see it changing regardless of who is clerks with the election commission. I sit on the election commission along with the probate judge, who is the chair, and the treasurer. And what we do is when we have a Republican and a Democrat on the ballot, and then if you have proposals, you have to have a third ballot that doesn't contain either party. But we always offer 100%. We all order 100% of voter of ballots. We always order 100%. Some counties do not. Now, some counties run out of ballots. Leelanau County has never run out of ballots. And I know while I'm here, we're not going to run out. The law requires that you order 25% above the highest number in the last general election anyway. And when we're turning out 80% voter turnout, it doesn't leave you any choice anyway. Now, during early voting, we have the systems here within the county building to be able to do ballot on demand. So we would have special codes based on where that voter came from and what ballot they wanted. So we were printing those ballots out as they came through. We had special paper, special printers. We were all set up, and we did the same in August and November until the numbers got so high and we started running out of paper, and everyone in the state. I mean, August and November just blew up with the number of people using it. People that you never would have thought would have voted early were voting early. It was, our numbers just blew through the roof. So with that being said, I'd like to see you continue with the position in the event I can fill it again just for 1 year. Also, the state of Michigan, with the early voting and the presidential, for the workers, for presidential, we had a little bit more leeway, but in August and November, for the election workers, the state of Michigan would only reimburse $15 an hour. And a lot of jurisdictions were paying anywhere from $20 to $35 an hour. We opted, in order to get our workers and secure them here, because I was looking for a specific group of workers. We paid $20 for a regular worker and $25 for the chairman that was working. And then we had township clerks here plus my staff. course, my hours are not billable. My staff hours can be billable for the extra beyond the normal work week. And then the townships agreed, anything above the $15 an hour, they split. And we just split it evenly by jurisdiction. Because without us running this here, they each would have either had to form their own groups to do this, or each one of them would have had to. Grand Traverse in August, I don't know if any of them combined, but I know Antrim and Benzie, both, each individual townships ran their own places. In the one county, they weren't going to trust each other to work together to do it. So they all took it on themselves, and they realized how much work it is, because it is 9 days plus the preparation before and after, plus going into elections. I know Lynn had some weeks where she worked 2 weeks and she would have 150 hours. So I know how many I had and some of the other staff. So it's a lot of hours. It's a lot of expectation. So that's just a little bit of my punch for wanting to get that position again in 24.
So you're saying on that 9 days that $15 per hour is reimbursed from the state?
For the election workers, yes, that's what it was in 24, but we paid $20 and $25 an hour. And then they reimburse the food, and whatever food they wouldn't reimburse because you can't leave. In fact, if we had to do it again, which will be next year with these big elections, we probably need 5 to 6 workers if the trend continues with the number of people that came through. I mean, because we clearly here are the best setup going.
So what did you do when you ran out of paper?
I called all the clerks and demanded that they come over with real ballots that they would have handed out, take from the bottom of the pile. And then I sent my husband on a mission to Traverse City. I called ahead, got paper up there. Our vendor, this was throughout the whole state of Michigan. And then in some cases, one of my reps from one of the companies drove paper up. It was hitting all over. No one thought it would explode like that in August and November. And it did.
So it was popular then?
It was extremely popular. We were getting to 400 per day in August and November. It went up each and every time.
February was like a slow trial.
It was like a very slow
And then-
trial.
Then a medium flow in August and then an explosion.
Our biggest day in February of 24 was 49. And then in July, we were just a little bit slower, 50, 100, 133, 220, 258. Well, then when we got to October for the November, it went 433, 327, 400, 321, 391, 208, 377. We ended up putting 3,200 people through here. We had them lining up out in the streets. And it was kind of like, come recycle what vote while you're here. So it was constant, and these people were hopping. And I feel really strongly that if it is here, it is not the responsibility of the county clerk to hold early voting. It has to be held by the Constitution, but it is a responsibility of the township clerks. I was not going to do that. And then when we had our meeting and listening to all of them, they just convinced me it was a weak moment. And I said, yes, but it did serve the citizens well. They could come here. They liked it. We have ample parking. We have good internet. We have good lighting. So it really was the best. And people that said, well, it's not close to Empire. Well, you don't have to come here. It's early voting. You can still vote in person on election day. You can still request AV ballots. You don't have to come here. There's nothing that says it has to be centrally located. But some of the townships, in my opinion, are not equipped to handle this on their own for the amount of days and the manpower.
So you plan on continuing it here?
If my budgets hold and the township clerks want to, and my staffing holds, yes. That would be my goal at the townships. They all seem pretty pleased with it.
I got lots of compliments about you when I was out campaigning.
Yeah.
So they did appreciate it.
I do think that they did, when we talk about 2 different setups, I don't think it inconvenienced the employees too much. I mean, We just have to work around it. And I liked it on this floor instead of the basement. And I really believe there's a little difference of opinion, but if it is going to be here and it's going to be under my authority, then me or someone from my staff is going to be here. I do not like the idea of leaving others in the building that aren't on the county payroll in case of electricity, because the very first day the system hit so hard, we had to be able to access our computers to get them things they needed, because we had to resort to paper to see if people were registered to vote. So we are here from the before they get here till after they leave with our workers, and everything can be secured every single night in my vault. So so that's on that one. Any questions about election?
That makes sense for elections. Come do the clerk's office one.
Yep, that's my next one here. And that's the one that went to 30, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Already compared to like less than 10 and.
Yep. So first of all, the first thing I noticed when I looked at it, I didn't know where that number came from. And with Grand Traverse, and I can't compare because the Grand Traverse County clerk is spread all over. She has her court office, which has 4 to 6 people, and she's got her main county clerk's office. The number that shows up on that chart there, which I pulled apart, is part of my county clerk and then a small budget that I have for circuit court clerk. Now, all of my staff, whether they are 100% elections or 100% court and jury commission, or simply county clerk functions, are all combined under one budget. So of that number, first of all, when I take out the circuit court clerk portion, that's a budget that I spent $19,288 in. And there was probably about 1,600 or 1,700 of that was just in overtime, Social Security, and retirement for staff. And I do not do time studies. If any of you are familiar with the courts, depending on how they are funded, whether it be for child support or depends on the type of their day work they're doing, they have to document their day in 15-minute increments because it's how their funding's derived. I don't have my staff do that. We're moving. So that was how much that was. I had office supplies for the court of $4,300, and that's like for your file folders and all of that. Then we get a imaging cost of $12,300. That's through Grand Traverse County. We are a paperless circuit, paperless being relative. We're one of the first in the state to be that. And then we have some microfilm storage costs of $158, telephone charges, which are automatically charged to us, and then copy machine rental charges, which you sent the fee, but we use. So when you just look at that based on, and pull that one out based on the number of systems, just that small budget comes to 83 cents per person. So that's peanuts. It could be combined, but at one point they wanted to try to get a feel for some of the others. Now, all of my staff, whether it's elections or whatever, sometimes if I can get like a circuit court jury trial, we had 9 trials in 2024, which criminal trials are usually a couple days, civil court trials are generally 4 days, but there's prep before and after. That personnel is still all charged to my county clerk's budget. So in my county clerk's budget of 701,000, that's what I spent. 83% of that, which would be 25.56 per resident, 588,000 represents personnel costs, which you're going to see in county government. County government is basically service oriented. You're going to see those high percentages in there. I have myself, my chief, and then I have 4 staff, administrative and 3 deputies. I lost 2 staff a couple of years ago. So about 83% is just personnel to run the office. Then when you go below, I thought I did. I think it's about 12%. Of that budget, 64,000 is computer charges, And I don't know if you've looked at IT and your building department. Those budgets, when you adopt those budgets and you give them personnel costs or buy all your computers, those are cost allocated back and those are put into the general fund. So I do not control those costs, so to speak. So that $63,977 covers staffing costs. It covers a depreciation on the computers that are in my office. Plus, if there's any other specialized software that has to come to the county clerk, that is in there. So I have 9 desktops and 4 laptops in my office, plus a portion of the director's wages and her assistant's wages. There's copy machine rental charges. Obviously, we make copies. You control the price of those. Then I have a building and grounds charge of $24,050, which is based on the square footage that I take up, but it's also reflective of how much you approve for building and grounds. There's a domino effect that's spread between the general fund and all of your other funds that are contained within this budget. That's how those departments get funded.
But I would assume that all counties do cost out.
I do not know that for sure. I do not know that for sure, and I do not know, do they split? You've got this many feet for circuit court. I'm not dividing. So where my accounting function stood in the back corner of my office, that space has all been absorbed into here when I've sent that up now like Election Central. So that brings me to the point when I was looking at this last night, I wonder if I should put that space into election to cost allocated over there. But we also use that space for Zoom meetings with the court because since COVID, how we operate courts have changed a lot too. We've got Zoom, you know, when we do, maybe not pleas, but arraignments and stuff like that. And we go to the back corner to do that because not everyone has a private office. And I do not know if all offices, and I don't know how they have to split. And those will reflect these numbers. So what I control, so if it says 83, I control about 5 to 6% of my budget. I mean, as far as true expenditures. So really that's all I can tell you on that. I'm happy to call those other counties though, to see how they get those numbers and see how many personnel costs are in there. Because it's going to be that way if you look at any of these, depending on how you're pushing them, because Leelanau's at 31. But Mason's at 22. I mean, some of them are lower. Grand Traverse is 989. That is not, that's not going to be all of her staff. I know how much staff she's got. And her offices are spread over 2 or 3 buildings.
Well, maybe I'm the only one that has these.
But I think it's interesting to look at it. And now that I know how these numbers were there, I think it's worthy to call. How many staff do you have? Alcona County, don't really know the size. I saw they were at 3147 and have they consolidated? I mean, I don't pull Molly out of mine and say, well, we're just going to budget you in circuit. Because when you go through the staffing levels, which are in the back of your book, if you choose to do that, you're going to see by department how many staff we have. I mean, because when you're looking at
What is capital outlay?
oh, capital.
We did a purchase.
We did an Apex. It's part of someone's talking.
Yeah.
Is it
Told me it's time to stand up.
Oh, okay. That was,
I'll stand up.
it's a new program. It's for people to go online and apply for marriage licenses. They can also start their CPL process, and it's something we hope to expand in the future. For example, all of our births and deaths now are electronic. And but it's a way for people to do things more remotely and then just come up and pick their documents. It has a lot more potential, but we're just breaking it in slowly.
So is that gonna be a regular or is that just?
That's the one-time initial cost, but there is maintenance that comes up every year on that. We're gonna have maintenance costs on it. And it's a lot more counties are taking it on. It's streamlining the process. Some like it, some don't. It seems to be working so well. The customers do seem to like it, especially if they can avoid the 3-day from making 2 trips here. It's interesting. I don't find a 30-mile trip to be too far, but some people find driving from the homestead here too far to drive
And waiting 3 days.
and
for
waiting
the-
3 days. I mean,
Must
we,
be young people.
well, it's interesting because there was me and only one or two other clerks. We charge $100 to waive the 3-day waiting period. And some of the clerks, like, you charge how much? We've never once received a complaint for that because they want it instantaneously. The other thing that I should tell you, what's going to be happening in 2026 is, and I don't have these, Ty, I hope I'm explaining this sort of to at least give you some answers. From a staffing standpoint, obviously, we're going to have elections. I mean, and they're big. You've got your top 3 people on the Michigan ballot are going to be out there. We do have a lot of openings within the county that will be on the ballot. We've had a lot of changes. I mean, a lot considering our size of county and township offices already. We've had at least 3 or 4 positions already change. But starting in April, like I told you before, we were one of the first paperless circuits in the state, and we were mandatory paper. Not everyone was mandatory like we were. Starting in April, for about 6 months, we will be doing the mapping to switch to the state program. Whether it's good or bad, it really doesn't matter. It's a directive, it will be done. I'm a huge supporter of the AS 400, but we have to do this. So someone will be attending those meetings. It will be Molly primarily. I will have to jump in some, but it's where you map your pleading. So the moment your complaint comes in, does it go to the judge? Does it go to the referee? Does it go to the assignment? It's the queue. It's the flow of how this will work. That will take approximately 6 months to get in place, just the mapping. Then it will be installed, probably be at least 6 to 7 months to learn how to use it. It is not as easy as people think that it is. I've listened to other clerks talk along the way, but it is. The state wants everyone on the same system, so that will happen. While that's also happening, we will be training approximately 200 people because everyone has to be recertified for elections. And then we will have, if the dates hold, we definitely will have a May election, August and November. So there will be a lot of moving parts. I don't know what the docket looks like for jury trials yet. It's still a little bit early, so it will be hopping, and time off will have to be scheduled very wisely and precisely, because we'll have to get this training done before early voting. And when you're doing training on working in polls, you're doing training, I do this anyway, training for the workers, training for the chairman, training for the, what's the computer you help me with in elections? Qualified voter, our poll book, I'm sorry, my mind went. Our poll book and our receiving boards, we do a lot of training for that. Hopefully my canvassers will get some training. It will be a hopping year. And that's why you will see these spikes in the election budget, especially in the even numbered years. It's huge. I didn't know if Mr. Dyer had a question for me.
I do.
Okay.
Okay. And I just ran some numbers. Your budget as proposed would go up 2.3%. As a commissioner, I appreciate that. That's how I said if we could keep the increases below the rate of inflation, then I think our increasing tax base will put us in good financial stead. Steve, and I've said this since the last union pact was approved, that now we have workers increasing in hours, and we still have we've got $12,000 budgeted in overtime. And I would like to be able to show to taxpayers that, look at, yeah, we're paying folks to work quite a bit more as far as hours, but there again, we're making up some of that with less overtime.
You will be. So when you talk about county budget and you talk about overtime pay, when the employees were 70 hours, which was a 35-hour work week, when they worked extra hours between 35 and 40, okay? Because it was a 35-hour work week, it was straight overtime, just a regular pay plus their 5 extra hours. I think that you will see it now. Can I get away from overtime in my office? Not between elections and court work and nighttime meetings. There's just no way. Court starts at 8 o'clock. It doesn't matter that we might not open till 9. Can I send someone home early if we need to? Absolutely. But when trials go late, I mean, I stayed, my staff had commitments. It was fine. I stayed till 6:30 or 7 when the judge got done for the jury trial. It was fine. Will you see that come down? Of course you're going to, because you've got in a 2-week time period, you've got everyone at 10 extra hours, 5 per week. So you are going to see it. What are you going to see it? For me in my office for 2026, that's not necessarily going to be a good indicator. It would be a better indicator in an odd numbered year, dependent on the number of board meetings this group holds, and also jury trials. There's nothing I can do about that. But elections, you don't, in this county, we do not do early voting unless it's a state or federal election. Just federal, I think, or is it state and federal, the biggies.
Well, anyways, that's.
But that
that's a
would be,
priority of mine.
well, and it is a generational thing. If I may say, it's a generational thing. There is a really huge push for this work-life balance. And I shouldn't say it like it's a bad thing. I'm just saying you are seeing that more where people want their time off, and who can blame them? And they do. And so we're trying to balance that. But I think the 80, at least in my office, does help. And, because it will come out of overtime. Now with the 80, you've got to remember, it's going to reduce your overtime, but it is going to increase just your base salary, because you've been from 1820 to 2040 or 2080 a year. So.
Well, if that's a priority for the commissioners, then we ought to get a monthly report on overtime.
What causes
how are
it?
we doing? So we can
Well, I
monitor.
think it's gonna work out in the end. We have one circuit court judge at 5 o'clock, he shuts down now.
One of my circuit judges?
Yes, yeah. One shuts down at 5.
Okay.
Maybe not up here, but he's been at the others.
Yeah.
5 o'clock, he says it's time to go home.
So we have our motion days, as you
Right.
probably well know. In our last jury trial that I just did, we had a visiting judge.
But
And
I'm
that
not
was
saying,
kind
I'm
of
just
fun.
saying it may work
Correct.
out because, we may see less overtime, you may budget it, but at the end of the day.
It doesn't mean we're going to spend it. We're not going to get, I don't have anything in my budget that just because you budget it, this isn't the federal government for me. I'm not going to spend it just
Yeah.
to spend it.
The only thing I saw that sticks out, everything's pretty
Yep.
much consistent, is I don't understand your telephone, that went from it stayed like 700, now it's up to 1,900.
Yeah, I think that because we didn't get a chance to go through all the books like we had, like typically each time, we start. Prior history, we start with the book. Kathy will let you know that fund, because the telephone fund is as old as the building. So she's reallocating for new equipment. And so we used to charge in the clerk's office when we had it $75 a quarter per phone.
Okay.
Now she had to up it because the contract, we're replacing the phone system.
That's part of your cost allocation. So if you get to the special funds and you're looking at how that relates to all your other funds, that's why it's so important. I'm sorry, I'm stepping into a back role and I don't mean to step into someone's lane. But when you look at your IT and you look at your maintenance, those are funds that drive a lot of these budgets in here, just like your union contracts and your wages. And as I stated earlier, your department heads and your elected officials, really, as far as their operating costs, that's what we're controlling. We're not necessarily controlling these wages. And like you just said, I wouldn't have thought about the telephone, but yes, the telephone. So when you're looking at that IT and the software and the computers that's being brought in, that's the basis to how that's going to spread, across, because you're going to be transferring money from the general fund to those funds. That's how they're going to get their revenue, which will show up on those specific pages. But that's why I don't control that. I do not
That was a change.
own, nor have I ever asked for a county cell phone. I do not have one. I do not want one. Several of the elected officials feel the same way. The only other request I would have is if you are planning to look at reclassifications, and I didn't get the feeling you were going that way, so I haven't done anything in writing. I would be interested in being part of that group for a couple of the positions because over time things change. But I don't know what you're going to do about that, so. That would be my only reason that I would need to come back if I needed to, unless you have more questions or you want me to do more research. I'm happy to do that.
I'm just wondering about the special project. You got 15,000 for that.
That is one. I haven't spent it because I've been going to, and that has to go. And that's a county clerk function. And it would be nice if any of you wanted to stop by. I think you saw it when the Register of Deeds was in here. If you remember that big library with those pages, it's preservation of those records. I've had the naturalization book done. And what it does is it gets in the special binders, it's preserved. So I have cotton gloves in the office. You don't want people touching all these books, but I still have a few more records I would like to preserve. And then it's just been being carried forward. I still want to do it, but it's just a matter of getting the time, getting comfortable with the vendor to know if I'm insisting it be done here or if I trust it. Up to this point, I've let everything go out of the building because I've taken that risk and chosen to do that.
Well, you've done that before.
I have done it before.
2022 was the last
Yep.
one we did it.
But 24 was a rough year. There was a lot going on, a lot of moving parts. So too much to do, and I'm hoping to do it if you leave it in. Look at that again, very, very first of the year.
So when you add your clerk, add elections.
Yep.
And then you have circuit court.
Yep,
And really, when you look at your budget, it's not 768, it's like 1 million something.
it's up there. Yep. Well, remember though, on the elections, now next year,
And jury commission.
and jury.
She also has one more we
Yeah,
haven't talked about.
I have jury commission too. That's just a small one. But remember, elections is going to fluctuate. And elections is about whatever I just said for Ty.
50% reimbursement.
Yeah, about 50% reimbursement. So it's right around the 126,000, but I do need more to operate because I pay here and bill out. So yes, does it get up there? You are correct. Mhm. But the personnel costs for the most part are contained within here. I've never been asked to split them out. I suppose we could, but they are cross-trained, but I could figure out a way to split them out. But it's really just, it becomes then a chess game. And I really like everyone just to know how much the people cost. And then we have the jury commission. The jury commission is 3 people. We do, as time allows, we try to pick up as much as we can for that. I have 2 people on it. There's supposed to be 3. But the 2 are doing a great job. They just finished. I think that
The
they.
last guy, he had to resign.
He had to resign because he got elected to some other position. So, and he didn't come with any replacement. So, but I do have staff that do a lot of work. We send those out about 3,000 because I do serve as clerk to the jury commission. And it does save us when there's a not downtime because there isn't, but we dedicate time to processing these because it is just quicker for us. And I would rather spend an hour or 2 of overtime if need be than trying to pull 2 people and then I'm going to pay each 122. I don't have a problem paying them the 120, but we can just move. We've got the equipment, we've got everything here that we need. And I just think it ends up for the small amount of overtime in my office, it ends up being a cost saving. Then once we get everything in order for them, they can come in. We've got them divided by who is 70, who can serve, who's died. And then they can move. The 2 ladies do a nice job with that. And so that is another budget. It's small, but
I lived with one of those and she came home and said, I don't know how they get all their work done.
she was very nice. She was very nice.
She was super sweet and we're like, make sure you tell the guy you live with about that.
Yeah, but that's it in a nutshell, unless you have more questions or you want me to do more research for you. But I really would like you to consider that election for 2026. That's even in the event I can find someone. Do you have any more questions for me?
More questions?
Thanks for answering mine.
Yeah, I appreciate the heads up. I would have sat here like the. Any questions? Mark, do you have any for me? No,
No.
Rick, did you have any more for me?
Did you have any?
Alan, Commissioner Campbell, do you feel smarter now?
I wonder if you had-
Right?
Or didn't take much.
No more guessing.
No, it doesn't.
Anything's an advancement.
Gwen, did you have any questions for me at this point?
No.
No, okay, and Chairman Yoder? I had already asked Commissioner Wessel, so I wasn't skipping him. You're good with me for now?
Good.
Okay, let
Appreciate
me
you coming.
know if you need anything else.
Thank you very much. So you are officially our longest serving.
I am currently, yes, Dorothy, I looked that up. Dorothy had about 15 years as county clerk. I am currently not the longest serving clerk in Michigan, but of those that are currently serving, I am the longest. Yes, I've got someone nipping at my heels.
So I don't want to reveal your age, but you were probably legally driving when her chair was born.
I think I could be the chair's mom.
I can. Hey, you want to know?
Believe me, when I'm doing these marriages, I've performed 21 marriages this year. We've kind of had a downside, and I should tell you, we've also issued 22, just shy of 2,300 certified copies. I've got 5 weddings to perform this week. I performed one on Saturday for someone's lovely daughter, and then I've got one on Thursday and four on Friday to perform this week. So it's been picking up. Grand Traverse will not do them. The district court doesn't do them. They're sending a lot to me. So myself and Judge Pachorka, we cover for each other, and then I probably take the bulk when time allows. It's a lot of work on my staff, but it's fun. And I seem to have a good success rate.
All right, I appreciate it.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have gonna be our finance director. Administrator said he has the confidence in you to do it, so on you.
Well, this will be interesting.
Some too, all right.
What I did give you today is an updated draft of your running spreadsheet with regard to requests. You've had many presentations so far. I did expand this so that you have a column with little X's that have new information, things that came to light since this document has been drafted. I'll just go down through a few real quick, like in the BOC administration, the new information is that the CPR first aid training for employees, it's in the winter 2025 2% request cycle. So that's the only new information. You all talked about getting new monitors for this room, possibly in 25. I just put that on the list so we wouldn't forget the talking point, and that was new information. We had new information that building safety was looking for a vehicle. I think I put 2. I think she asked for 1, excuse me, on your far left, change that to a 1. I believe I am correct on that. I'll check with Amber. Then the 2%, you talked about possibly applying for the AED units to be a 2% grant. And then we talked about the government center tower deconstruction coming possibly from the tower fund. And I'll get with Administrator Dyer on that. I think he has some information for me. So we'll talk more about that later. Further down, you talk to Andrew, equalization. He'll buy that scanner through his office supplies because he always underspends, so we won't be amending his budget. We'll just have him do that. Parks and Rec, undetermined project. We know in the DNR grant was, there was another requirement. We sent in letters of support by the deadline. We're in the final review, so that is a DNR grant with the match coming from 470 that's already funded. It's already there. So just a little bit more new information. You decided to move the trailer mount generator to 2027. You can see that I've added a column to the far right, and I put a check mark there. So if you decide you don't want to have a project in this year or 26 and you want to move it to 27, this is how you can kind of keep track and just make notes as you go along. Further down, under IT, the rapid recovery, that is going to be in the proposed 26. It is a renewal. It is not a new request. I cleared that up with Leanna, so I just wanted to let you know you don't need to make a decision on that. It is something that is a renewal.
There's no price on it.
4,000
It's on there.
in the proposed 26, $4,000.
So I'm not seeing.
It's under IT on page 2.
Oh,
Page 2. It's right about in the middle of the IT section. Quest Rapid Recovery Support. Yep. So that's not going to be a decision for you. It's a renewal. So I just want to let you know that. Leanna came to you today. She asked to get started on the Microsoft 365. That's new information for you. And the safety net MDR security offering, that could be part of the RFP. So it wouldn't be a separate item. It might, when they bring those to you next week, that could be included in the bid. And we're just not sure. So I just want to let you know that probably will be a talking point when you review the RFPs. Civic Plus software, I'm going to let the administrator talk about that. He brought up that price of about 25,000 at your last meeting. So that's new information for you. And the jail access control system intercom, we're looking at possibly funding that from Fund 211 inmate housing. There is cash there. We're talking about that. And the administrator can update you on that as well, because I believe the lieutenant is going out and getting bids on that. And then on the last third page, we did quite a bit today with regard to Parks and Rec. You had new information that some of these things that are on this list are actually going to be 25 items. It sounds like you have moved Miles Kimmerly Golf to next week. The gazebo refurbishment. So some of these things are going to get chopped off here in 25 if you approve them next week. And so just some new information. It does look like the playground, the Parks and Rec may have moved that to a 27 project. Commissioner Campbell, if you'll confirm that.
I'm sorry, what?
Miles Kimmerly Playground to 27? Or is that going to be a 26?
We did not push that for this year, I don't believe.
Okay.
Mark?
No.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, this is a working document. If I've made an error in picking up information, please let me know. Veronica Valley, of course, you also, the park talked about the path to pond. So that's new information. A grant writer, that's new information. Poor Barn ADA compliant bathroom facilities, that's new information for consideration. This was out of Parks and Rec, like their CIP.
Can I ask,
Yeah,
when you talk about a grant writer, is that someone who would write grants for other than, I mean, for everybody?
No, that's,
just for the park.
we had this vision of getting moving on the CIP list. And the way to get moving is you have to apply for grants. So I can't remember how much it costs per
It
grant.
says 5,000.
Yeah, 5,000, and what is in there? Is it 10 or
30.
30?
30.
Yeah, we weren't really, you can reduce that down, because when we really talked about it, we were talking about, we could probably do about 2 projects, maybe 3 a year. It's unrealistic to think you're gonna apply for 5 grants and that we're gonna have the funds to meet the matches on it.
So I'm just saying, if you find a grant writer, we might want it for other projects.
I'm trying to hire one out here today. but
I know, yeah.
So, and then dropping,
questions.
oh, okay, and then dropping down under personnel wages, staffing benefits, you did review, the request to a 60% IT technician to a full-time at your executive today, so that was a new information, and then the Parks and Rec are talking about a park volunteer coordinator. That's new information.
That's probably not gonna happen.
Okay. Then on the last page, nothing new. So I just wanted to get you a working document that's a little more caught up, giving you some yes and no boxes for your use, so that when you deliberate and decide what you want to have included in 26, you can do a yes or no. I don't know if that's where you're at right now, because I had 2 meetings ago, you wanted to know more about revenues and the impact of the 3% for all the salaries and wages, correct?
Yes.
So let's move on. If you would like to, we can move on from here. And your
Are you at
revenue,
Revenue projections now?
yes,
Okay.
is that okay?
I just want to make sure.
Yeah,
Are
I
we,
was gonna, for the CIP, what
Yeah.
I'd like is for every board member, like, do a little homework and have that for our next meeting, go through and have everything itemized, so we can move through it quick at our next budget meeting. So now, once we get through revenue projections, we'll know more what we have, and then we can go through and maybe have that itemized for next week, so.
Except we can't make it, we have to know.
Well, by once Kathy goes through our revenue projections, we'll know more, and then we'll know for our CIP next week.
I know what you're saying. You need a guess as to where you're at, because are you gonna choose $100,000 project as opposed to $30,000 projects? I mean, right,
Do we have 50,000? Do we have?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was hoping with the revenue projections, we'll get a good idea of what
sure.
we're looking at, and then once we
Let's
go
do
through
that.
this, and then we figure out our.
So you're asking us to mark yes or no on these things, basically?
Pretty much, yeah, get it ready for next week. Yeah, once we go through, we'll know more once Kathy goes through revenue
yeah,
projections.
no's will be easy, because then we won't consider them, and then the yeses, you'll understand how much those cost.
Yeah.
I hope is if the estimates are good. So, as I am a direct report to the administrator, I did input revenue figures as he directed. And the first document you have is pages 1 through 7, and it's the revenues only. So I do have a column, 3 columns over from the right, called the 26 proposed originally, the one that's in your book. And what Jim has directed is that we do not utilize fund balance forward to balance this yet. And it's only if we need to, because he wanted to know, with the amended revenues, did we have a surplus or a deficit given the expenses updated? So bear with me. So to zero out a fund balance forward mechanism and adjust current taxes and settlements to approximately a 3.4% increase over what was originally over the 25 revenue, excuse me. That would equate to those adjustments on line 2 and 3. Then going to page 2.
What amount is that? Is that what I have here in front of me? 13,790,000?
Correct.
That's
And
already been adjusted.
yes, and then add the 353 underneath, and it's 14,152,680 altogether. If you add those 2 lines together, 14,152,680. $14,152,680 in revenue, and that is about a 3.4% increase over the revenue for 25. Then we looked at all of the
So
revenue.
that's 2026.
That's projected for 26.
So when you say over the revenue for 2025, is that in the amended budget, in the proposed budget? What
That is the amended, over the amended,
Okay. Gotcha.
okay? So then we went line by line through the revenues and we identified on page 2 that currently, I think you were copied in on the probate judge's salary increase. So the reimbursement will be a bit higher. So instead of a budget of 128,000, we moved it up to 138,000 for reimbursement on probate judge salary. Jim and I talked about the fact that grants, we typically will run those as zeros because we're not guaranteed we have them. But we've identified 2 grants that are repetitive, secondary road and marine. And this year marine came in low, it came in the $20,000 range because they didn't know how much money they'd have. And they came back with federal funding. So it does tend to run around 40,000. Yes,
I'm just wondering, you're actually putting in what the judge asked us for, even though we've never approved that or said anything about it.
this is the reimbursement and the judge's salary is dictated by the Supreme Court of the State of
Right, but I
Michigan.
meant to his workers,
No.
that's not been put in there, has it?
No.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
So we did put these 2 grants in because they are repetitive and they do have history. So we put those in. Then on page 3, we did adjust district court costs because the last audited year of 24, it was at 132,000 and we were budgeting 100. So we increased that up to 130,000 to be more consistent with 2024. We're on page 3. Page 4, administrator talked to the Register of Deeds and they agreed to increase the transfer tax from 350,000 to 400,000. That's a $50,000 increase. Administrator talked to the treasurer and instead of a $25,000 revenue budget for interest, they bumped it to 250,000. And then if you recall Andrew's presentation from equalization, they no longer collect money from townships for their property tax bill. And so there's not a revenue need. So we zeroed out the revenue. And that's on page 4, I think. Or am I on 4 or 5? I think I'm on 5 now. And we also adjusted his expenses for those as well. So there's both a revenue and an expense side adjustment there. And then down below, I did adjust a workman's comp refund. I'm pretty confident that the workman's comp, because of all the increases we have, our estimated wages that we provided will be low at our audit and we will owe an additional premium at audit time, which is August of 26. So I didn't want us to anticipate a revenue that I just don't think will be there. And then the last page, administrator and the treasurer got together and instead of a transfer in from DTR to the general fund of 25,000, the treasurer has agreed to a $300,000 transfer to the general fund. That's an increase of 275,000 to the general fund revenue. So overall, without using fund balance, we have an adjusted revenue projection of 17,998,875, just shy of $18 million with these adjustments.
So could you tell me what the 275 is for the transfer in?
That I do not know. I would ask you to ask Administrator Dyer.
Okay.
So that takes us now to the next handout. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Another question? I should ask everybody. Do you have a question? I'm
Well,
sorry.
Yeah. My question is, that money is reserved for another sheet of paper, the CIPs, or by our policy it is. It's not for just mixing in with our general fund. Yes, that's my statement, because I'm not gonna actually receive an answer for it, so I don't understand why it's sitting as now part of our regular budget. Am I incorrect on that?
But it's part of our revenue, we haven't decided who it's going to go.
I know,
This
but-
isn't this just our revenue only?
This is revenue only.
And he's saying that would be another, he wants to take 275, so we don't know what it's going to be spent on right now. So
Well-
that's where we have to, I think you're right, though.
But right now, I know what it's gonna be spent on, it's just gonna be on general expenses. Because we haven't gone through our CIP budget and have put those capital improvements in yet. So it's almost, they almost have to go in together to get a real feel for where we're at.
When we go through expenses, it might be in there.
Okay?
So any other questions?
But that's a good statement.
Okay, then on the next document, this is where we put in the 3%. I should read my notes here.
So could you just
Yes,
make sure, help us understand that we're on the right one, because we've got two things here.
this has got a column with net wage benefits increases included. A column with just a few numbers
Right,
skipping.
one. It should say net
skipping lines.
increases right up here. It looks like this.
I tried,
Oh, benefits, okay.
yep.
Thank
So
you.
what this is
Wage and benefits.
I amended the proposed budget for the staffing levels. The 3% plus benefits included were the FOPLC ratified contracts, non-union, which you directed me to do through the administrator 2 meetings ago. You wanted to see the impact of 3% across the board. And so this is what this is. It is the wages, Social Security, the MERS impact, the short-term disability impact. So what I did was we amended the proposed in each department that was affected. And starting off with Board of Commissioners, to get the 3% in, it was a net increase of $6,100 to that line, that budget.
So just increasing our budget.
Your expenditures for the 3% for the wages.
For our wages?
You're set. But
Is that
in
Lauren, basically?
Lauren and Jen Kane work
Okay.
under the Board of Commissioners.
You know, part of the reason I asked that is somebody in Grand Traverse said they just built in, I understand we can't do this in a normal year. But they
Well-
built in a 2% increase every year, so they never have to talk about Board of Commissioners money again.
They may have done that prior to the beginning of the term.
I know, we can't do it till the end of the term. I'm just planting a seed. I thought it was a good idea, because it took us 25 years to think about it.
Oh, your own salaries.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying. Okay.
So I'm planting the seed, so in 3
Okay.
years, when I leave, I'm gonna
Okay.
say,
And
let's
Okay.
do that.
Along that Board of Commissioners, and I know it's way too late for this year, but boy, in the future, that, just the name Board of Commissioners has so little to do with, because everyone thinks it's just us, Board of Commissioners. And I can see where, from a public standpoint of understanding where that money's going, you would have an HR department. You would have the administrator should be separate from, because Board of Commissioners, you think is an elected position.
I think
So-
an organizational chart would help you, and we have one, if you would.
I mean,
Yeah.
built into the budget,
Oh,
so
mhm.
everything wasn't under Board of
You
Commissioners.
have the ability to do that.
Anyways,
Sure. So the next department affected by the FOPLC increases and the non-union was the Sheriff's Department, and the increase was 76,681.
Marine Division, if you recall, this is going to be a commander. And so I put that in with one individual at the top. And then the rest are probably going to return, I would imagine. Now, secondary road, the reason there's a decrease is because the person who vacated that position was a higher compensated deputy, and the person assigned currently, and we went by current staffing level, who was in that role, is a new hire. So I did reflect the appropriate person to that role. TNT, this is just as it is. I know that you have to decide. The sheriff made a request about reclassifying that, but this is an entry position, slight increase there. Suttons Bay Village, not such a huge increase, but that is, again, we have a newer hired deputy and replacing a tenured deputy who retired. And just going, yes,
Yeah, that looks, because it was 101,000 something, for the Suttons Bay.
correct.
Yeah, so the 2,153 would, actually should be a lot more, if it's 92.
Well, the proposed budget for 26 was 90,000. That's the third column. And so to go up to 92,000.
They had already taken it off.
Yeah.
Taken it off from there to there.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, we just did the contract at 101,000. So it's gotta be more than 92.
And when they asked me for the projections for the village of Suttons Bay, this was done last May. And so that was a different deputy at that time.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, that number should be, I think.
And we bill them for actual costs. When we build the village of Suttons Bay and the township of Leelanau, we do actual cost, and it's not a firm contract dollar amount. So we do quarterly billings. And we have the Leelanau Township and jail. Jail was significant because there's 10 deputies, 4 sergeants, 1 lieutenant, all under that heading. So that one was pretty significant. And a lot of tenure in that department. Emergency services, that would be just the increase of the 3% on your EMS director, 50% of his salary. Animal control, that's for 1 deputy there, again, a tenured deputy. Prosecuting attorney, that is for your non-union predominantly, which would be your prosecutor, your chief assistant prosecutor, another assistant prosecutor. And I think the rest in that department are Teamsters. That was already built in. And 10% of the prosecuting attorney's salary is charged to prosecuting attorney family support. Then we have non-union personnel in circuit court family, I believe. Just trying to think which employee that is, but it's non-union. And going down to circuit court juvenile officer, that would be the 10% or the 3% increase to Kim Clark. Circuit court childcare fund. This is the increase of the transfer to childcare 292 to cover the increase of the wages on that side, which is the 3% for the non-union. I heard the conversations that happened last week. That's a separate conversation. I did not change the staffing levels. This is based on current staffing levels. So if you would like to go through, line by line, we certainly can, but it follows all the way through to the next page. And budgeted transfers out at the bottom, that 62,000, That's a transfer from the general fund to dispatch to cover the increase of the wages in that department that I believe is in front of you this week, their contract. Okay. Okay,
That's dispatch.
yeah, because it's a transfer out. They have no service money. They need our money from the general fund to fund dispatch. So if you increase dispatch, it increases your general fund transfer out. Same with childcare fund 292. You transfer out.
They don't have revenue.
Correct. Now, I did make an adjustment in building safety and senior services for the non-union, but they're self-funded because they either have permit sales in their revenue or they have their own millage. So there's nothing that impacts because of those two. So taking your adjusted expenditures for all of these 3% that we put in against your adjusted revenue, this last document I've given you, if you turn to the last page, expenditures as adjusted, proposed against adjusted revenue, it looks like a surplus of $218,000 without utilizing fund balance.
Where were you at?
Last page of the last document I gave you.
It's,
Where is that? Is that this one?
Could be.
One
No,
line's
yeah.
all the way on the right.
Yep, it's gonna have
Oh,
blank
okay.
lines all the way along.
And that is if we leave the staffing level as requested by the departments.
right,
At the way everything is now.
Well, not as requested, but as we determined. because-
Well, the only one that is,
we haven't made it, but so it's.
Well, I was thinking of building maintenance, we didn't.
No, I was thinking the sheriff's department.
Oh.
yeah, no, I did not change those, no. I did. No, so that's what we're looking at here. Now, Chief Deputy Zawicki made a good point. When you go through your CIP and you start making decisions that impact IT or buildings and grounds, it floods back to the general fund. And those really need to be made first. Those decisions for buildings and grounds and IT should be made first. Because it will
affect-
filter back and eat up your $218,000. Do you follow me?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, but the revenues includes the transfer of, how much from DTE for 25?
and that, yes, so if you think about that $218,000 surplus, that is because of an adjustment in the revenues, including DTR.
Which is
So I
what,
think that's a,
300,000?
right, I think that is a fair question. I would direct that to the administrator.
So if you take that out, we're actually, $200,000 more in the deficit, drawing from fund balances, I guess is the way to say it.
If you took 225,000 out, we would have to,
425,000. Isn't that what?
No,
the
it's
transfer-
300,000 total.
300,
From the
so-
DTE in?
Yeah,
Yeah, so you'd only be about 75.
Oh, was it only 300,000?
Yeah.
I say,
About 75.
so you would, if you took that out, you would not have a surplus. You
Right,
would
you
have
have
a slight
$82,000.
deficit and fund balance forward. If you adopt your expenditures to have a balanced budget, you would have to use a bit of fund balance forward to balance.
Right,
Right.
but that's also if we get the revenue in that you're saying we're supposed to get in, that we're guessing at. You know, whether it's the grants or the increase in taxes.
Yes, because,
And we rarely spend what we think we're gonna spend. Like the departments don't.
we
to
tend,
spend.
well, we make sure they don't overspend. We do watch their budgets. And last year, we did have a surplus at the end of the year in the general fund. Lots of things factor into that, and that is reflected in your audit, such as vacancies in offices that did not have funding of they had the approved level and the budgeted level for staff, but they didn't have bodies
Oh.
actually being paid, so we underspent.
It seems to me, though, this time, there's been a serious attempt to kind of, to move in a little different direction from we're going to under budget revenues and anyways, make it so that it for sure balance. It seems like we're going on both sides, trying to make things more representative of how we think they will end up at the end of this next fiscal year.
Well, and I think you are at a point where you're deciding to commit to your expenditures. Are you committed to the expenditure levels here?
Yes.
Knowing that you still have decisions to be made in buildings and grounds and in IT that can, funnel back into the general fund. So
Does this include the tower?
the deconstruction of the tower,
No, I'm sorry, the cooling tower.
that's a totally different topic of conversation. Cooling tower is a 470, which is a capital outlay. It's in your 25 budget. And it is a 2025 transfer out of DTR to 470. That's typically how capital projects are budgeted. You put a marker in your 470 that you would like a project, and you commit to transferring the funds from DTR straight to the capital fund. It doesn't go through the general fund.
Okay, so that's committed. We've been talking about that for.
Believe me, I would like to have that project done myself.
Well, and I would think that the 200, or the 300,000 could go towards that, rather than into this budget.
Aren't
Because then
you
it
saying
goes going
that's
towards
already,
capital.
Mark, that the treasurer's already accounted for that transfer to pay for the water tower?
Yes, and that's in the 25.
Yeah, so it's already there. We can cross that off our worry list, actually.
Yeah,
It
but
could-
that's got nothing to do with next year's budget that we're talking about.
No.
Well, the thing is if the RFPs and the process of paying for that chill tower, or the term I'm sure is right, if we start it in 25, we'll have to move it into 26 if it doesn't get done, but it's just a budget amendment between the DTR and the capital. We'll just take it over.
That money's already been separated from
Yeah,
these
it's
numbers.
already been
Right,
thought about. It's
But
already been,
you just thrown another 300,000.
I didn't understand what you just said. Oh, from the DTE
DTR.
or DTE. Yeah, I said right them checks.
They should give us that anyway, they should, but seriously, so we committed to take 300,000
For what?
to make our numbers match.
And we can't do that. DTR has to go with capital improvements.
All right, well, it looks like we're very close
You can
without
pay
the DTR.
It can pay your debt. So the
So
250
if
for
we go
MERS
towards-
goes towards the debt. Mhm.
Okay.
And then the other 25 is the 25 he always gives.
Right.
That's how I interpret it. Sorry to
Oh.
have interrupted.
that's helpful, but yeah,
Yeah,
you could
okay.
leave it there and
Jail.
pay for your
Jail.
MERS.
Off the jail.
So we're then,
He has never done that.
without
but he
the
could.
DTR
Yeah.
or DTE, we're within $82,000 of
250
balance in
initial.
this budget.
Wow.
Much, we're on there.
No,
Incorrect.
you have 218,000 in surplus that you can spend.
With, I said though, without, making that clarification, without the DTR, we're within $82,000.
Correct,
Of balance in this budget.
yeah.
We've got a long list here.
We do, absolutely. Well, I mean, just it helps me when I go through this list. I almost call that even on the $82,000. And now I would, if I go through this list, I would go through it with the idea that, well, we can pull 300,000 from the DTR and apply it to our capital improvements and pick out which ones we want.
So could I ask a question?
Sure.
So Jen, may I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay. So with the policy on DTR, the 300,000, the 250 that we put to MERS qualifies.
Yes. So your DTR, I believe the DTR policy that John had, and that before that would have been Shelley as well as Vicky, states that it can be any debt related and or capital improvements. So the DTR paid for this building in cash, they were on the board.
Right.
And then it has over the years contributed more than the additional amount to MERS. It could also, if they had ever wanted to, have paid the LEC debt payment instead of the general fund for the bonds that were taken out on the law enforcement center. Instead of paying DTR towards that debt, we had in the past reserved DTR for cooling towers, roofs, heat pumps, anything that was related to, and something that you could in essence plan that wasn't planned, right? So you had, you wanted a chilling, carpet.
Like it continues.
Yeah, kind of like a capital improvement, like, hey, this is my, whatever I need, if I need it right away, it's there for us. But it wasn't ever something that, unless we knew of a purchase. So like in 25, you allocated your, I think your cooling tower or something, or chiller or something from DTR.
Yeah.
So typically we try not to spend out of your general fund, your tax collection for your big projects. You hope that those come from your DTR, so that your tax dollars either roll back or are sufficient for your general fund operational budget.
Well, wasn't there a $250,000 contribution already baked into this budget? though?
Yes,
Yes,
there is.
But there wasn't a contribution from DTR to supplement that.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Right.
saying, is that
It's already
the
in there.
original, you don't have to worry about using that DTR for the 250,000 because it's already in our budget as a line item.
Right.
And that's how they're offsetting, not taking it from fund balance. So he's pushing 250 from DTR to the general fund to supplement the MERS line item. Without it, then you're dipping into fund balance.
Is it the $82,000 number?
That would go down.
Okay, yeah, so, so.
Yeah.
What I had originally said is
Well, that makes sense.
82,000 is about even anyways. Your 250,000 is already included in your expenses.
Correct.
And so if you have your 300,000, that's about what we got for CIPs, if everything else doesn't move in here.
Yeah, you'd be taking another 300,000 from DTR. Is that what you mean? To pay for anything anything additional on Kathy's list, you would be taking it from DTR.
Yes.
That makes sense.
And we don't usually spend $3,000.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds.
So we wouldn't have anything to talk about next year.
Well, thank you for helping me
Thank you,
understand that.
Kathy.
Yeah, thank you for
I
helping me
appreciate it.
understand
And I
it.
understand it, so.
Yes.
We've had
I'll be
I'm not
right here.
leaving.
several different revenue projections. This is everybody's best guess.
This is a roundtable discussion, and this is the number that the administrator directed me to use.
And it could go up or it could go down. It could be that there's more uncapped properties than we know.
There certainly could be.
Well, no, we have our taxable value already.
Right.
So for the next round, so anything that happens after.
Except Andrew hadn't weighed in on the revenue yet, right?
No, he did.
Yeah, he gave him
He did.
historical value.
Yeah.
From my understanding, the projected revenue side is a little lower than the previous discussions that I had had, so. If that is at all any higher, I would imagine it would only go up instead of down on that, because I think that's low from what our administrator mentioned before, so.
Yeah, I had in my notes 14,152,680. And
Right,
if you add those two lines together, that's what that is.
right, and from my recollection, there's been some discussion of having it up to 14.3 to as high as 14.7, that was some discussion, I think that was in the past, so the fact that we're that low,
Makes you feel better?
yeah, it's a little bit more optimistic, I think, so. So I just don't see us going any lower than that.
Yeah, I don't wanna get
So,
tighter, but the thing we don't know is our millage rate. Because we don't know Henley, I think that's our missing number, our ratio.
That's what we approved, actually, what was it, last month? the tax amount that's gonna go out to
That-
all the counties.
Oh, I guess we.
That,
we already
that
did
was
do
early childhood and senior services. That's what your millage rates, you approved your
Millage rate in
25
July.
millage rate back in May.
Right, so we got that number.
Yeah.
Okay.
So going into 26, what you will discover is your new taxable value as of the snapshot on 12/31/25. Andrew will do what Andrew does best with all of that and come to you with the new taxable value for 26. He'll tell you the Headley rollback and you'll decide in May of 26 what to levy in 26. So those are all the unknowns.
Any questions?
And historically, we adjust to that number in the spring. And that's when we'll find out if this projection is high or low.
I'm glad we're using these numbers because it is more realistic. We're always careful and we don't spend it all at once. So if we find out that for some reason half the county burns and we don't get all our money, we adjust.
And there is 300,000 in contingency. in
There-
this particular
There
budget.
is 300 in contingency in this budget, yes. And I do appreciate knowing about the DTR transfer can fund the MERS contribution, so you can feel comfortable with that.
You mentioned earlier that we ought to just get rid of our hiring freeze. And I don't think so, because we never change our staffing levels and priorities change. And I think we ought to just agree that when there's vacancies, we don't automatically fill those unless the administrator says he needs it. I think we ought to weigh our priorities because we're gonna have software changes, we're gonna have program changes. And if we just turn over positions each time, we're just repeating what we've always done. So I really think we ought to look at staff retirements and resignations as an opportunity to readjust priorities if we find it necessary.
I don't think.
Well, you know,
It's stiff.
I'll give you a brief. So 20 years ago, when we built this building, and I was on the board, and I had commissioners sitting at the end of the table going, well, why are we building so big? We're not gonna have, you know, with IT and computers and everything, we're gonna have one person in each one of these offices. I'm thinking that now we have quite a few more employees and have a lot more obligations than we did 20 years ago. So, as government grows, and it does, and you know, that's not a positive thing, but I mean, I'm not gonna count out that we're gonna be able to eliminate positions like we think we are.
I'm not talking about eliminating, I'm talking about adjusting.
Well, you're talking about not replacing, you're talking about eliminating.
Well, take from this function and put it in this function.
Right, and it's, yeah.
My belief is you don't do that haphazardly, depending upon who retires and who doesn't retire. If indeed we really want to sit down and have a strategic discussion about staffing among all positions, then you have that in place. And then when someone does leave from, you've already made that decision that you're not going to fill that and you're looking to transfer it. But to do it according to who hands in a resignation sheet, I just don't think this is a good plan.
Well, case in point is, Board of Health. Okay, so we're looking at their budget and looking at who's leaving and no, we're gonna eliminate these FTEs. And we'll combine all this, and they did that, and yeah, they spread the workload out, and yeah, it's worked out well for them. And it might well work out well for us doing the same thing, but I wouldn't bet on it.
I guess I need to interject. I'm not sure about saying it worked out
Well,
well.
I don't know yet, we don't know yet, well, I won't know
Because
for a
we have
year.
people like Michelle taking taking shifts answering the phone at the front desk, which means she's not getting, it's because they got cut 700 grand.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I'm not gonna beat a dead horse. I'm just saying, I don't think that we
I don't
ought to
like it.
automatically.
I agree with you, Ty, and here's an example. To me, is there, the sheriff has said that TNT doesn't need it anymore. So he wants to reposition him, you know, but he also needs a vehicle and other things for it. So, I mean, I really think we need to look at that and decide, because, I mean, I know that we have now, we never had state police officers in the county before, now we have two. We never, we used to always have one, conservation officer who traveled in other to Benzee as well, now we have two here in Leelanau County. You know, we didn't have Park Service employee, you know, and we now have law enforcement officers there.
We
So,
didn't have travel police.
right, you know, exactly. So, I mean, do we, it is an opportunity, I think, to look at it. And if he doesn't need the TNT, which was grant funded originally, and wasn't something that we only did because, you know, we were given the money by the state and they're not funding it anymore. You know, maybe this is an opportunity not to buy an extra car and not to, you know, and not to get an extra officer. Though I know that won't make the sheriff happy. I just think that, you know, per capita, we have more officers in this county than I think any other place in the nation.
Probably not, because we put a National Guard in now. But yeah, good point.
All right.
So, you know, so I guess I'm saying I agree, we need to look at it, and I think that's one that I've seriously considered,
There's $100,000 there, you see that.
plus a car.
That's the car.
All right, so everybody has their consign with the CIP.
Yeah.
Getting that prepared for us next week, come back so we can move forward on that, so. If anything else to add, Kathy?
No, just if you would go line by line through this and just gather your thoughts. If you have questions, please reach out to the administrator or myself. And there's a few things that, I know veterans burial is just a line item for you to consider. And an interment of a veteran here in our county, we give upon verification by a funeral home, a $300 interment stipend. That has not been changed in a long time. I have my personal thoughts on that. I'll let you have your personal thoughts on that, but it would be a board change if you want to do more.
Do people take advantage?
They
Oh,
do.
yeah. But I'm just wondering, there's a budget for veterans of, I don't know, what, 25,000 or something?
Not anymore.
No? No, I thought they gave that out every year too.
No, we have a sailors relief fund, and that has specifically for a certain type of military background to be able to get that relief money now.
Okay.
The state really pulled back.
Yeah, sailors and soldiers.
And we
Yeah.
still don't have word on our CVSF grant either
Yeah,
for
so-
advertising and whatnot. So
But anyway, and we don't
just
need-
something to think about.
we
But
don't need to do
if you
claims
would
in
go
the
line by
county.
line
No,
and be
we're all
ready
done.
for next week,
We
to
did public
expedite
comment. We
this.
already did public comment.
that would be helpful.
We did.
I think we also need some strategy on, or some discussion
Oh, that's two different meetings.
on the request from the judge that we received as far as raises and salaries within his department. Because then I can see that having a ripple effect. Kind of all look a little funny when we got hit with that. And we revisited it. So.
Sure, part of the agenda. All right, any other follow-up questions for Kathy?
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
All right. Next up, we are on to public comment. So that's Mr. Weezer.
Elmwood Township. And as always, only way to have fair elections, one person, one ballot, one vote, one day, to have no problem. This handout is, I recorded this, I think oh yeah. By the way, these are thumb drives. We're trusting our elections with thumb drives. And in and out, like in Atlanta, it appeared that the one lady was passing a thumb drive anyway. That's the old way, with poll books, paper poll books and everything is the best way for sure. The book, this one I should mention in September, by the way, I was just late getting here. It took me a while to get this together. Stolen Elections, the Takedown of Democracies Worldwide. It's written, Gary Bernstein is one of the two whistleblowers. He was in the CIA and many other organizations. He says the story of a complex and vicious attack on the underpinnings of American and global democracy. Stolen Elections needs to be read by all of those who value freedom. Okay. Oh yeah, okay. This is the final sentence of the Declaration of Independence, part of it. The founding fathers said, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Okay, keep that in mind. Also, keep this in mind, 58% of all the voters in a Rasmussen poll said that they thought that fraud had determined the outcome of the 2020 election. So nowadays it's easier to travel than it ever was. So what are we doing with 9 days of early voting? How about pledging our sacred honor? How about we determine to have secure elections over everything else, like the way we did it for the first more than 150 years, when it's easier to travel now? So I'm just saying, and over 50% of all voters said they would volunteer for this if we knew it was a fair type election. So this is just I picked out of the first 20 pages, that's as far as I got. It's 48 pages in all. The book you could buy and get the whole story, but I can't copy it. But the transcript here we can. And what's on my website already, we have 12 pages from this guy, Gary Bernstein. So that's all very good stuff. This is just loaded. And it's narrowed down to about 7 pages. Just look, I urge you to look through the highlighting here. And I have to skip, it always goes quicker than I think. But on page 3, I copied this from one of my earlier articles. That's a building in Toronto. That building, that is Dominion, their headquarters in Toronto. And it's in the same floor as George Soros. And Sequoia, Smartmatic, oh yeah. And another thing, from last week I mentioned stolenelectionfacts.com. It lays out all the time dates. It just lays out everything. Stolenelectionfacts.com. Read that. But all Dominion would have had to do is walk down the hall to the next door to George Soros and say, hey, we need some money. We can buy this Smartmatic or Sequoia, and we can have it for elections. I mean, is that a little bit suspicious? And okay, there's a whole lot in here, and I'll just have to go to, yeah. All right, the top of page 6, Gary Bernstein, why they're not coming for him, because he has the goods on it, and he doesn't, they don't want him to take him to court. And I'll say on page 8, at the bottom of the page, read that. That's sort of a synopsis of everything that's been going on. Please consider this. More to come next time. Thank you.
Public comments? Commissioner comments? Go for it.
Yeah, while I was at that conference, this is something, we passed, the conference passed the 2025-2026 general government platform. And in the platform, it says, tribal agreements, MAC supports new compacts or consent agreements between the state and its Native American tribes that maintain a minimum 2% distribution of gross slot machine revenues to local elected units of government, but not non-governmental organizations. So part of their platform, in which was passed, does not support giving 2% funding that the casinos taxes, property taxes to non-governmental organizations. So that's right, we actually support them with $12,000 a year. And so they are telling us that we should not be supporting non-governmental organizations.
Trying to get through the day.
Hey, I
You should
didn't,
know better.
I didn't write this, it's right.
He's got a point.
All right,
And
any other
I would like Mark to know that I have no comment.
Oh my God, write that down. Got probably ran out of breath. That's all.
All right. With that, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Still have 10 hours.
I have 2 here,
Yeah.
Oh, really?
You do it.
but I think.
Oh, you know what, I did see that
Because it
this morning
wasn't
in the
in
news,
my
that there was a
possession when
big
you
rain
said-
cloud going
I
in Detroit
lost this
today.
one during closed sessions. I knew you could get it.
Oh, you want another one? Here we go. Well, they want to make you happy.
I just-
Yeah, you can.
left 21 runners on base. Can't win
Isn't
the
this
game.
the first game where they're home though?
Yeah. it's
Oh,
the time
First
they're
time
home.
at home, yeah.
Yeah. I know it.
I feel a lot better after
I
today.
feel bad about paying attention.
I feel a lot better.
All right.
Yes.
I'm starting to realize the different sides
This
of
is
the
a
ball,
new
you know?
photo or new screen?
I don't know, I guess I never
Oh,
watched that.
this normally used to sit here, but they changed our YouTube feed, so when you look here, you see me.
And we can
And
see
then
the
without the
screen.
screen, you can see my screen. Not that I type anything bad. Yeah, now you just see the back of my head the whole time.